Hello everyone, it's Farkid here, and in this video I'm going to cover Update 3 for Sons of the Forest, the major update. Now this is probably the best one out of the three, because it adds a lot of fun things to it. Just to note, none of this video has any spoilers in it, but let's get started. Now I already covered the Night V in a video prior to this one. There are some things I found out afterwards though. The first thing is that it spawns in multiple locations, and I don't know how many there are exactly, but there's more than one. There's 4 in total that I've found, though the safest one is the one mentioned in that video that I made. It's in a normal camp, whereas the other 3 are in cannibal villages. Not that it would be hard to just run in there, grab it, and then piss off. Still, there's an added level of danger there. Also, the map markers I found out. Box Dude on my Discord found out that there's multiple map markers if you're playing normally. Since I was just making a video on it, I wasn't playing normally. He also found out that you can use the Night V and the glider at the same time, and to do with the zipline as well, you can use it on the zipline. I think you got to jump before you activate it if you're on the Night V. I can't quite remember, but I think it is doable, so you are able to carry both. I'll put a link in the description to the original video that I did on it, as I don't want to double up on stuff here. Next is they've added solar panels and light bulbs to the game. I haven't found where you can find these things yet, though you can carry 3 solar panels and 8 light bulbs. I'm fairly certain these would be found around in camps or maybe in caves. I probably should have done this for the video, but I completely forgot, and now I'm recording. This is all I've got. Now it's actually very simple to use. You just grab a solar panel and attach it to a roof. I did find out that the roof doesn't need to be angled. It can even be flat, and these things work at night. I don't know how many light bulbs one solar panel can power. I'm guessing it's quite a lot, though this would require more investigation, which I will eventually do. Just for the purpose of this update video, this was just going to cover it briefly. But you attach it to the roof and a wire goes inside, and you kind of have to guess where that is. Look on one side, then go on the other. Might be easier to pull the wall apart so you can see where the cable's going. But each line you need a piece of wire to go along a log. So your framework inside your house might be a little bit more useful now to leave there so you can place the wiring. So there's no manually running cables and that sort of stuff. It all places along with the logs, which is a bloody excellent way of doing it. So far we've only got light bulbs. I'm sure there's going to be other things to come, such as a battery charger and that. And the solar panels do run at night. I don't know if that makes sense, but it works. It's probably a good thing anyway, because who's going to need light during the day? The amount of light they give off isn't that much, but once you stack up quite a few, it'd be pretty good. Next is that they've added an armor rack to the game. Now this replaced the mannequin, which required like 5 duct tape and didn't do anything. What they didn't mention in the patch notes is that it's actually a different model to the mannequin. It looks similar, but it's actually quite different. I believe the mannequin was probably intended to be a clothing storage as well as an armor storage, but it probably didn't pan out that way. So they might add the mannequin back in later on as a way to store clothing items. So the one on the left is the mannequin, the one in the middle is the armor rack, the new one, and the one on the right's the scarecrow. They all look similar, but they are different. Now it's pretty easy to use once you've placed it. You just hold down E and then you can add your armor pieces to it. You cannot add tech mesh or hide to it, but it's there on the mat for some reason. But it doesn't delete it, so I wouldn't worry about misclicking it. The armor rack can hold 10 pieces of armor. You can have an assortment if you want, though if you want a full stack of each, you're going to need 5 racks, and that will cover you for the tech armor, the mutant armor, the bone armor, the hide armor, and the leaf armor. I'd recommend you use these, especially before you go into caves and such, because you'll often get an overdose of mutant armor if you're in there, or bone armor if you're prepared for that. Basically you got rope and duct tape, and you still can pick them up and move them, as well as demolish them. There is a visual glitch I noticed, that if you walk away a short distance, the duct tape despawns. It's not even that far. Just a note for the developers if they're watching. The next change is that you can now build stairs and ramps within your house using a beam along with the wall. This is an excellent change, because building stairs after you completed your house was an absolute nightmare. You can use stairs with this as well, but ramps are preferred. There's some glitch in the game with the player walking upstairs. He doesn't do it too well. Also, just a note that the stairs and the ramps don't poke through the wall on the other side, which is really good. The next addition is the Nightvision goggles. Now these are a pain to get because they're in the new cave, and I didn't cover this cave too much in the second update, but it is a nightmare to navigate around there. An absolute nightmare. It's way too big, and I think it circles around on itself. I'm going to give you a quick guide on how to get it. You will need the rebreather, and this is a location of the easiest way to get it. Note that once you go in here to get this, you're going to have to follow it all the way through to find a way out, because you're falling down a slide. You can't come back out the way you went in, which I think is silly. And once you go in this little cave section, mentioned, there is quite a lot of items, so I recommend you stock up. Then you've got the short swim, but before you continue, I recommend you take a sharp right and go down to this little area. There's just some supplies in there. You might as well get them while you're there. And then you follow it out, and then you fall down the slide, and then there's a short swim, and then you come to an area with all these cultists. Now, the one that has the night vision goggles is a little bit further up against the painting on the wall, and he's got it on his face. Now, is the night vision goggles any good? I think so. You can see further than any other light source in the game, including the console command cave light. It lights up much further away. I tested it out with some NVIDIA filters, and it can improve it if you don't have too much light added. And you can switch it on and off by pressing F. It won't turn on the lighter. If you look at any light source while you're wearing the goggles, it's going to blind you. You won't be able to see crap. And the reason the enemies here were so docile was because I had the animation speed set to 0.1. Now, I tried to find a way out, and time was my enemy, so I just gave up. It took forever, and I didn't even get anywhere. I just kept circling back to the same spot. This cave is an absolute mess. I don't know why they've designed it like this. It's like none of the other caves, and it's not even like a cave in the forest. It's just a mess, and it's very frustrating to deal with. It's where the golden armor is being put now. It's just too open, and the fact that it circles back on itself is just terrible. Not a very good design choice. You can now delete saves, and saves are capped at 30. This is to reduce issues with Steam Cloud saving. I've had issues with the Steam Cloud saving with this game before. It's been the cause of most of the crashes I've experienced, actually. And I did check my save folder, and it does delete them from Windows, just so you know. So be careful what you're deleting. And the final major change, before onto the minor ones, is that they've added a spring trap. Now, this thing is absolutely amazing. It's definitely shown that End Night still have their fun side that they had in the forest. That with the Night V as well. They're able to add things that are just fun, that don't really make sense, but they're still really cool. It's hard to explain what this is like because it's like nothing else I've found in any other game. Now, this thing can kill most enemies that are small. So a lot of the cannibals, mutant babies, that sort of stuff. It just launches them up in the air. So it appears that there is a mass attached to enemies as well, and creatures in general. The less something weighs, the more it gets launched in the air. So I'm assuming there's going to be mods coming out that lowers the mass on creatures. So you'll be able to launch really large ones right up into the atmosphere. Now, it doesn't affect bigger mutants. So the demon, the twins, the fingers, etc. they don't get affected. Also, the big cannibals that carry the big clubs or the motorboats, they just get launched up in the air a little bit. It just slows them down, though you can still have some fun with it. Also, I thought I'd check what happens if you actually get near this guy. He doesn't chop you up with a blade, he just whacks you with it, which is still entertaining. Now, in terms of animals, all the small ones just get launched real far. Moose are a little bit more immune. They don't really get affected by it. They can go up pretty far, but they don't take any damage by the looks of it. Deer get launched in the air quite bad. Same as a rabbit. They go up really far considering their size. Seagulls and birds have no effect on it, so you don't have to worry about them triggering it. Squirrels get launched in the air the most out of all the creatures in the game. This thing basically went up in the atmosphere and took forever to come back down. I guess that's the most realistic, as it is the smallest animal that could probably trigger it, and it's also quite funny too. Now, your companions Kelvin and Virginia cannot trigger these things, which is also handy, but I guess you can't have much fun with them. Now, it costs 2 wire, a turtle shell, and about 4 sticks, I think. The turtle shell's a pain part, because you'll have to be near a pond or a lake or near the ocean where you can get turtle shells easily, because you can only carry one in your inventory, but you can carry one in your hands as well. I did stack multiple ones on top of each other to see if it will give a boost effect, and it doesn't do anything. You still jump at the same height. In terms of the glider, it does help you get a boost. With this trap, if you jump on it directly, you will go up higher. If you're running at it, you'll jump lower. So you'd think jumping up with the glider would make more sense. It doesn't. It triggers the fly animation pretty much as soon as you get off the ground, but if you're running, you go up higher. Also, doing it with the Night V and the glider at the same time can trigger it to just knock you off the Night V and drop both. Doesn't seem to be an easy fix for this one, but there is a workaround. I'm just not sure what it is. And the spring trap can also be used to get up to the back door of the rope gun. So you don't have to use a birdhouse, but birdhouse is much cheaper. You could always demolish it afterwards. They'll probably patch this out eventually though. You can also carry the thing and also dismantle it. Though probably one of the most useful features that you can use all the time is for building. You can jump up quite high on logs when you're trying to place them, so you don't have to build so many ramps and stuff like that. It would probably eliminate a lot of the parkour as well, which is something I've been complaining about just a little bit if you've been watching my videos. It's not really parkour if you only jump them once. But I worked it out, you can get up about 4 stories, I think, before you can't get up anymore, which is quite a good distance. I think. Now I tested what happens if you hit one while you're on a zip line, and nothing. It does trigger the trap, but it doesn't launch you or anything. I don't even know why I tested that. Now something that could be an interesting use for it was suggested to me by Box Dude as well, and that is to make like a kill box that you can jump into. Don't build it like this because this didn't work too well. It's too low to the ground. Enemies can just kind of glide over the top of it like this fingers does here. So it could be a safe way to get inside your defenses without having to worry about them. Could also be used to get over your walls. It's actually really good, isn't it? The more I think about it, the better it gets. It's such a brilliant addition. There's still more testing to be done on this thing, but I'm sure its uses are just going to be in the plenty and just keep coming out. People are going to have videos, etc., ideas, concepts, that sort of thing. But yeah, now we're getting into the more minor stuff. The next change they made is that puffy cannibals, or the mutants in the caves, you can now carry their bodies. So what you can do is skin them for their mutant armor and then throw them on a fire, and then you can get bones. So not only can they give you mutant armor, they can give you bone armor. This is a helpful one, especially if they fall into water in a cave. You can pull them out, most likely. Tarp and turtle shells will now show their item count in the inventory. It's 1 turtle shell and 5 tarps, though you can carry 1 extra one in your hands if you need to. The next change they added is they've made it so half textures and quarter textures are no longer blurry in the survival book. When I first started playing, this was really bad. I think this is the change that fixes it. I could be wrong, but the images are much clearer than they were before. The next change is those structures that they added to cannibal villages, such as the tower and that big building. They can both now be destroyed. The tower itself actually has a rope on it, but you cannot get the rope back if you destroy it. I guess the only reason to destroy these is just to clear out the camp. I have no idea if it affects their spawns though. I think it might make mutants spawn if you clear out too much. Kelvin can now be set to collect arrows and all the different types of arrows, and he will actually return the correct ones. So if you've just had a big battle and you don't want to clean up after yourself, you just get Kelvin to do it. They probably should have added an arrow basket with this change so he can go and fill up an arrow basket instead of giving them to you. I don't know if he'll just drop them on the floor or not. The next change is that rabbits and squirrels will no longer trigger the 2 major traps, the fly swatter and the bone maker. Though deer do trigger it, and same with moose, they will trigger it as well. Deer's alright because it kills them, but moose, it just tickles them. The next change is an interesting one. They've just added a photo, a realistic photo to the starting screen on the intro of the game. It seems like they're giving the main character a bit of a backstory, which I think is probably a good idea. Otherwise, all we know about the main character is that they worked as a mercenary for some group, namely Puff Corp. The next change is that they fixed cannibals taking damage from falling trees. Now to test this to see if it was working, I had to slow down the AI animation speed so he was basically standing still. So when he got hit by it, he didn't really do anything, so once I sped up this animation speed, he fell to the ground. He didn't die. This is on hard mode, so he might have taken a reduced damage from it, but it still messes him up pretty bad. The next change is that they've added a surveillance camera to the luxury bunker entrance. This is just to be more consistent with the storyline as it progresses. The next one is that babies will now float to the top of water when they die. They jumped into the water and didn't die. I had to kill them with a command and they floated to the top. I guess it's a good way to tell if they're dead because you don't really want these sneaking up on you because they do a lot of damage. Now I'm going to mention a few changes that I didn't get footage for, mainly because it would have been too difficult, and I'm just going to have the rest of the patch notes scrolling here. Instead of putting them all in like I did last time, I'm just going to put the ones in that I haven't covered, scrolling down. There's 5 I want to mention. Cannibals' ability to dodge heavy attacks have increased. Probably not the best one, because they're already quite good at dodging them. They increased the worm's damage to structures. He's called John 2 in the game files. If you add character space John 2, it will add him. He's basically a sequel to the worm from the first game. Enemies now flee further when scared. They fixed an issue with nomad cannibal families spawning more than the maximum allowed amount. If you have experienced an excessive amount of cannibals being spawned in the map, this was probably the bug. And lastly, they fixed more cases of enemies and large animals being able to be spawned in player bases. So they shouldn't be spawning within your house or that anymore, within your walls, hopefully. Anyway, that's it for this update video. It didn't have anywhere near as many bug fixes as the last one, but these update videos seem to be pumping out pretty good. They are definitely working on the game. And we do know that they're going to add changes or things that we didn't even know were coming. Had a few comments complaining about the game, so it's not worth playing. I'm sticking to it. The forest was not very good when it first came out. It was far worse than this. We just got to give it time and patience. Anyway, if you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe. Cheers.